Most people listen to music almost every day of their life. In today's world, there are so many platforms and ways to enjoy music, but today I'd like to talk about a very important platform that you might be familiar with, and that is the forgotten giant of the music industry, the CD. Most of us probably remember these from our childhoods or have run into them every now and then, at the store. They aren't gone, but they certainly have dropped in popularity. They are, however, experiencing a little bit of a comeback due to nostalgia for, physical media as a whole. Before the streaming era, these things were everywhere. And then, streaming came into the picture and it took the music industry by storm. Streaming is far more convenient, and it drove CDs out of business. Spotify and any streaming service that you use is essentially just access to that service's library. You don't own any of the music. It all belongs to Spotify or Apple Music. What you have access to is entirely dependent on what Spotify has in their library. So if they remove Kendrick Lamar, his entire discography from Spotify, good luck listening to Kendrick, because you can't. It's not in their library anymore. Physical media is less convenient than streaming, but it does have something that streaming does not. It exists. It physically exists. These are real. This is all music that I can say that I own. Spotify doesn't have hands on this. The point is, with physical media, with a CD, you own the music that's there. Spotify can't take it away from you, because Spotify and other streaming services, what you have access to is their library. And whatever you can listen to is completely dependent on what they decide is in their library. So if they wanted to, they could just delete whatever album from whatever artist, and you would just have to deal with it. Back in 2018, Spotify announced a new policy that would remove music from artists that promote hateful conduct. This new policy would threaten the discography of several high-profile artists, and artists like Kendrick Lamar threatened to remove his own music from the platform in protest of this policy. If this were to have happened, users would no longer have access to Kendrick Lamar's music, and they would have to go elsewhere to listen. So because of Kendrick Lamar's protest of this censorship, and many other artists also spoke out against the censorship, Spotify ended up not implementing this policy, so nothing was removed, everything stayed the same. Is it likely that Spotify will ever wipe out like half their library or a significant amount? Probably not. But the fact that anything could be removed at any moment and you just have to deal with it, that lack of control is concerning. This is where physical media comes in, and specifically CDs. As I mentioned before, physical media is tangible. It is real. You physically have Bad Bunny's Un Verano Sin Ti. Unless you break it or get rid of it somehow, this isn't going anywhere. This is mine. And I'll keep this forever. There's nothing anyone can do about it. The main disadvantage, however, is that they are tedious to use. The advantage of them being physical is an advantage, but also a disadvantage because they take up space. Obviously, I have a little booklet there to, keep my discs, but that I need to find a place to put that. That takes up space, as opposed to just having my phone. Everything's here, in the cloud. You have to open the disk drive, put it in, swap them out. But as long as you don't mind the space, the steps, they're perfect. They sound great. They have some pretty nice art on them, so it's not that bad if you don't mind. But physical media doesn't need to be portable. You can make your CDs streamable so that you can listen to your music anywhere. Now, this might be confusing. What I'm describing is literally just streaming, but the difference is that you can be your own streaming service. You can be Spotify. In order to fight streaming and truly own their content, many people use a service called Plex. Plex is a streaming service where you basically host your own media server from your own computer, and you can host and import content that you own and stream that from any device from, the Plex website or app. So if you own CDs, you can just rip the files, put them in a folder, import that folder to Plex, and that file is there, and you can stream it from your phone, from your computer, from your Roku TV, from your car. Plex gives you the convenience of streaming without the risk of losing the content one day or being blocked from the content or anything like that. All the files are on your computer, on your hard drive, wherever you put them. They're not going anywhere. I've started doing this with a few of the albums that I especially enjoy. That's why I have CDs in the first place. Admittedly, ripping the CDs, putting them in folders and importing them is tedious. It's not super complicated, but it's just it's just an extra couple steps. I have a small CD collection, so most of my music is on Spotify. I only have a few CDs, so majority of my listening is still on Spotify. That's what I still mainly use. With all of this being said, streaming will likely continue to be on top, no surprise, and CDs will continue to be more of an archival, nostalgic novelty. If you listen to nothing but Spotify or Apple Music, consider purchasing a CD. For artists that you especially enjoy, have a physical copy to own, not even to rip and import it into, a media server or whatever, just to undoubtedly have it and just say, I have this physical piece of something that I enjoy. Another reason I would do this is if artists ever get canceled, you can listen to the CD instead of streaming them. That way you don't contribute to their streaming revenue. You can separate the art from the artist, but that's a different thing. So go out there, buy some CDs.